Seahawks fans rejoice. Nick Emmanwori is good to go for Super Bowl 60. What does that mean for Mike Macdonald's defense as they look to get the Lombardi Trophy this weekend in Santa Clara? It's coming your way here, Super Bowl edition, Blue Friday, Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Live here from Radio Row in San Francisco. Glad to be joined on our Super Bowl edition Blue Friday show by my co-host Nick Lee. And a special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in, whether you are in Oak Harbor, Washington, or Sao Paulo, Brazil. We greatly appreciate all of the 12s that make Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week and have helped Locked On Podcast Network become the #1 sports podcast network. We are 48 hours away from Super Bowl 60, and that means, as we do every Blue Friday, we've got keys to victory, we've got picks to click, we've got game predictions all coming your way. Courtesy of our friends at FanDuel, it's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Now for your lead story here on our Super Bowl edition Blue Friday, Locked On Seahawks. Seahawks fans, you can take a deep breath because Nick Emmanwori is good to go for Sunday. Obviously, the sky was falling in the Pacific Northwest and even down here in San Francisco, San Jose, Santa Clara, wherever the heck you're at in the Bay for this Super Bowl festivity. When Nick Emmanwori left practice on Wednesday, turned his ankle, everybody was freaking out, got imaging done. Fortunately, there's no breaks. It's a lower ankle sprain. That is the good garden variety of ankle sprain. And after not practicing on Thursday, full participant today, Nick, and maybe the quote of the year by an NFL coach coming from Mike Macdonald to the pool reporter. No designation for Nick. Turns out he is alive. I am begging the Seahawks to take the field with shirts that say, turns out he's alive on Sunday. I would love to see that. Man, you know, Mike Macdonald's becoming somewhat quotable, like, and sometimes not on purpose, but like this one definitely was. He was trying to get a rise out of the pool reporter. There's no question about it. He was having some fun with this yesterday. And, you know, Nick, before we talk about the other Nick and his impact on this Seahawks defense in this game, like, I got to give Mike Macdonald a lot of credit. Like, you know, a coach like him, I thought he might look at this week with all the extra stuff that's going on and maybe have his guys rein back a little bit. He's let them enjoy the process, but they've still stayed incredibly focused this week. And that's included him. He's had a big smile on his face and he's taken this with stride, but you can tell he's still very much ready and focused for this game coming up on Sunday. So kudos to him and kudos to the media, or to the medical staff for making sure Nick Emmanwori was good to go. But I think the fact that he isn't even listed on the final injury report and he was a full participant today, that bodes really well for having number 3 out there on Sunday and playing at a high level.
First of all, let me take a second with this being our first Seahawks Super Bowl show together ever since we've been together for going on almost 10 years now. Yeah. I want to pause and just we're doing keys to victory and picks to click and all that in February for the Super Bowl. I mean, how cool is that? I'm 34 years old. This has only happened 4 times for the Seahawks. And, you know, think of teams like the Browns, the Lions, the Jags, and the Texans who have never even been to a Super Bowl. Then you got the Vikings, the Bills, and, you know, the Panthers and the Chargers and those teams that have been there but never won it. Cherish this. You know, Sunday, everyone listening, taking a mental snapshot of the day. You'll never forget it. Even if things don't turn out great. It's truly just a great time to be there, a great time to just soak it in. This is what being a football fan is all about. And I do feel good about the Seahawks' chances, especially with how Mike Macdonald has handled this week. And I think you just hit it out of the park because is he like this crazy, charismatic, always got something to say kind of Andy Reid character? Yep. No. But I just think he's so cerebral, yet sometimes with those guys, they're a bit disconnected to kind of the humor of it all. And he's not. He is genuine. He is sincere. And I think it's endearing. and it's really proved well in this 2 weeks. By the way, this has been the longest 2 weeks of my entire life. The clock has ticked backwards for me. And so Nicky Emmanwori, especially when Nicky Emmanwori's initial injury came out, of course, we're all panicking. And I'm texting you. I'm like, give me something here. I texted.
And look, I gave you what I could. Like, I was told that he had imaging done, but I didn't know anything beyond that. I mean, and I was, and you can tell our listeners this, I was encouraged, and I know that you were not, but everybody, I think Seahawks Nation was not. I think. Well,
yeah, you go to worst case scenario. I mean, just as a fan, it's natural to go to worst case scenario. Cam Chancellor, injuring his MCL before Super Bowl 49, and it's just like, what can happen? Of course, this would happen before we play the Patriots. Something always weird happens to Patriots opponents this year for some reason, like they have a witch doctor or an Etsy witch or something in there.
And we're in San Francisco, so there's that the whole substation thing.
Yeah, right, that too. So obviously that all got put to bed with him being, on the other end of that, being available for media. You did a great job covering that, and also with the team being very open about, Kobe Bryant saying, oh yeah, he's good, and now full participant in practice. And because in that little window where people were fearing the worst, for me, it was because not that I don't think that the Seahawks couldn't win the game without Nicky Emmanwori. I think they could have and probably should still. I think they still should have been favored had he been out. It's just the fact that how Mike Macdonald can call his defense, simulated pressures. And we've seen it all season long as Nicky Emmanwori has grown, is that instead of offenses dictating the personnel, Mike Macdonald has dictated personnel because to the offense because of Nicky Emmanwori is kind of the all-time, queen on the chessboard, the trump card in the hand, all that stuff. He has been that. Doesn't matter what personnel you throw. And having that possibility of him being out was devastating because that could change the complete, complexion of the defensive game plan. I still think the Seahawks would have won, but it's nice that you don't have to entertain that because Nicky Emmanwori is playing, and he could be a huge factor in this game, bringing the Seahawks, bringing the Lombardi back to Seattle.
Yeah, look, I've talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, but now that we know he's playing and we know he was a full participant today, and usually that last practice is pretty light, but still, that is a really encouraging development because Seattle's typically, like we saw with Charles Cross a few weeks ago, we're going to not even practice you. We're just going to make sure you're going to go. The fact that he's out there as a full participant, that tells me that he's feeling good. And the fact they made him available to the media yesterday was a really good sign to me too, that he was going to be out there. But I just think you look at the context of the opponent, and we're going to be talking about this more extensively in the game planning part of this episode. But I just think this opponent having that chess piece when you're dealing with a QB that's both big and fast, like Drake May is, having a 6'4" safety that can run in the low 4.3s and knowing that he's going to be close to 100%, or at least as close he's going to be with how quickly he's coming back from this ankle sprain. But having that game-changing speed and that size there to be able to hunt him down is a big deal. But even bigger, Hunter Henry to me is the most dangerous guy on the New England Patriots offense. It's not Stephon Diggs. It's not the two running backs. They've got other good players. But he is the one that scares me because Seattle's had some tight end issues. But Nicky Emmanwori has shut down tight ends for the most part since he's been in the lineup coming off that injury early in the year. He is going to have a lot of snaps going against Hunter Henry. And if you had to go with somebody else there, I think Tyakata could have done some things. He's played well this year. But he doesn't have the size and he doesn't have the speed and the length. Like Emmanwori is the perfect guy to have there for those tight ends, those pass-catching tight ends. So having him available, and I also think the blitz aspect in this game, that could be something that they could sprinkle in with Emmanwori and have him go after Drake May. And he could be a guy that can still chase him down even if he doesn't get to him initially. So I think this opponent, not just the game here, but this opponent, having him back healthy, at least healthy enough to play at a high level, is a massive deal. And we'll have more to discuss on that when we come back here on our Super Bowl edition of Blue Friday, Locked On Seahawks. We've got keys to victory, offense, defense, maybe some special teams as well. That's coming your way here live from Radio Row in San Francisco. Don't go away. You're listening to Blue Friday here, Locked On Seahawks. Guys, it's officially 2026, And those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and ZocDoc makes that easier than ever, because staying healthy is more than just hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. Using ZocDoc makes scheduling easier. Search for an in-network doctor and book right in the app. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits, and no more back-and-forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. It makes it simple to get your health as a priority, even with a busy schedule. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find instantly and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. If you're ever trying to hire somebody and that person looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important the entire process is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting at other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I need someone to hire for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are best matching for your role, and that makes the real difference. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with less stress, less time, more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Welcome back to Locked On Seahawks Blue Friday edition, Super Bowl weekend, here live at Radio Row in San Francisco. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. He's Nick Lee. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in 48 hours away from the big game here in the Bay Area. We greatly appreciate your support of the podcast. You listen and live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free by joining the Seahawks Everydayer Club today. Get Locked On Seahawks with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and much more. Just $5 a month or $50 a year. And right now, with the code Super Bowl through Super Bowl Sunday, you can get your first month free. Go to LockedOnSeahawks.supercast.com. Enter in the code Super Bowl, all one word, all caps. You get your first month free. Locked On Seahawks Everydayer Club. Don't miss out on this opportunity to get more of what you love. Locked On Seahawks, more access to our hosts, you name it. It is an absolute bargain. Ad-free. Locked On Seahawks with the Everydayer Club. All right, Nick, we are, well, at least I am here in San Francisco. We are on Radio Row, getting ready for the game, 48 hours away, Levis Stadium, Seahawks Patriots, Super Bowl 60. First time that we've ever gotten to do keys to victory together for a Super Bowl game. And the Seahawks getting to have this opportunity to have a second Lombardi trophy and get a little bit of vengeance for that last Super Bowl that they lost to the Patriots. We're not going to discuss that game anymore. Let's talk about the one coming up on Sunday, Nick. And as we do every week, diving into some game planning, keys to victory on offense for the Seahawks. And I want to start this off saying, look, scheme and stuff matters. Clint Kubiak is going to have to be on his A game schematically, getting opportunities for his receivers, particularly in the play action pass game, because this is the number one play action defense in the NFL, the New England Patriots have. And they've been really hard to run the football on. So you're going to have to find ways to get some wiggle room in the run game. With that all being said, I'm moving away from the X's and O's specifically in this first one. To me, you got to have the X's and O's working to get in the red zone. There's got to be sustained drives. You got to get inside the opposing 20. And I know that Nick Cattle's our host for Locked On Patriots, and I looked at the stats. They've been better in the red zone in the playoffs. But this is a team that all year long was 30th through 32nd in red zone touchdown rate. You get inside the 20 and you finish. I think you got to get there 4 times, and I think you got to score touchdowns at least 3 of those. And if you can get there more, great. But you got to sustain drives. You got to get down inside the 20. The Seahawks have been a great goal-to-go team. New England has been god-awful. You have to take advantage of that and punch it in and get touchdowns in that red area.
Spoiler alert, I do think the Seahawks are better overall than the Patriots. And how you let a team that is not as good as you hang around and even beat you is not taking advantage of red zone opportunities. In the Week 15 game against the Bills, where the Bills came back and beat them, the Bills were 5 for 5 in red zone trips. 5 trips, 5 touchdowns. That'll do. That'll do, Pig, I think, in this game for sure. So you cannot settle for 3. I mean, you can a couple times, but you cannot do it every time. You cannot waste those chances because Nick Cattle's also made this good point in your crossover show that, yes, while the rate of the Patriots has been really bad, the league, just in the league, they have allowed the least amount of red zone trips in the entire NFL too. So there's a little something there where between the 20s, they're a really, really, really stifling defense. But when you get them inside there, maybe something schematically kind of breaks down maybe, and they allow those touchdowns. So got to take advantage of that. And then 2 other things I'm looking at as well. While I don't think the Seahawks getting down early is some sort of mortal wound that they won't be able to overcome, but starting fast, because you saw in the 49ers game, obviously I don't think the game is going to turn into that kind of game, but a kick return touchdown for Shaheed, it was over. The game was over. And getting a team like the Patriots to play either from behind or play catch up or play keep up, I think plays into your hands. And so scoring early, and I want to credit Evan Kaplan on X that says the Seahawks are 11-0 this year when scoring first this season, the only unbeaten team, including the playoffs. So scoring first, I'm not saying is like if they don't score first, they're going to lose, but scoring first has really boded well for this team. And then it puts the Patriots in a tough spot against your defense, which I think is advantageous. They have to start, maybe getting out of their game plan a little bit if they start falling behind early. And then also with the blitz, they're going to be probably pretty aggressive. They're going to be testing Sam Darnold and company. They blitzed, I believe, the 10th most times in the NFL overall in the regular season, and they blitzed about that same rate in the playoffs. But Sam Darnold has been fairly good against the blitz in the playoffs. I was reading minimum of 20 dropbacks facing a blitz in the postseason. He is first in passer rating, second in completion percentage, and then he's had 2 big-time throws and 0 turnover-worthy plays. So really been great against the blitz. So that battle with the blitz, because they're going to bring some pressure, some quick hitters, some screens, because Walker is doing really well. George Holani might have a big opportunity as well in the screen game against the blitz.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think when you look at this opponent, because New England there's been an uptick in their blitz percentage, at least in passing downs in this playoffs. They have been more aggressive. I'm not even looking at necessarily the screen game is going to help. I think that you got to have a few times that you pull those screens out to try to catch them in a blitz and see if you can catch them in an advantageous spot. But I'm looking at those crossing routes, those quick dump offs, running backs and tight ends. New England has had issues defending both of those positions in the passing game. Now, the running backs, they're near the top of the league in receptions allowed, but they haven't allowed a lot of yardage off of that. So that's worth noting. Tight ends, though, they're 11th in receptions allowed and receiving yards allowed. So I'm looking at A.J. Barner attacking the middle of the field. I think Elijah Arroyo, if he's active, and he could be in this game. This could be a game that getting him back out there helps them a lot. Ken Walker III, George Holani, he has been my X factor all week with his soft hands, getting those guys matched up one-on-one against Robert Spillane and Christian Ellis, the linebackers. I like those matchups for Seattle. And I think you can soften things up for your receivers on the outside doing that. So I think that is going to be critical for Seattle offensively in this game. Let's go to the defensive side of the football now. And to me, Nick, look, Drake May is not one of those QBs where you're only worried about his running ability. He had 31 passing touchdowns this year, and he's one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL statistically. So you're not going into this game thinking, well, if we can just stop him running the football, then we're fine. That being said, I do think it is massive to limit the big explosive plays because he's one of those guys that can quickly churn out 3 or 4 10-plus yard runs in a hurry. They can't have that happen. Their pass rush integrity has got to be on point, especially allowing him to step up in the pocket and then take off. He's been incredibly deadly doing that this year. The pass rush integrity has to be as good as it has been in any game this year. And I think if you can hold him to 2 or 3 at the most 10-plus yard runs in this game and really bottle them up. I think that handicaps New England's offense quite a bit.
I might even go a step further and say they probably should allow maybe 4 or less 10-plus rushes of any kind combined with scrambling. They allowed 5, or they had 5 of those against Denver, which certainly, while that wasn't exactly a barn burner offensively, they still had 5 10-plus yard runs, which is an explosive run. And the Seahawks are the lead the league in allowing the lowest explosive run rate. So I do like that matchup there, but you can't turn into, 1st and 10 or 2nd and 8 can't turn into a first down via the ground. That is how the Patriots gain traction and how you get yourselves on your heels. And then also, this has been beat to death this week. I mean, every angle has been beat to death for 2 weeks, the longest 2 weeks of my life in the Super Bowl leading up to this, is the left side of the offensive line for the Patriots. Yep. Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, and I'll even throw in the center Bradbury with some of the struggles that they've had along the interior line. And I want the Seahawks to mix it up, and don't be complacent with man on man. We'll beat them every time, but mix it up, some stunts, some personnel switching around, bounce the guys over for gaps and confuse them, because that can be, we saw it in the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs and Eagles. An interior defensive line can absolutely win you or lose you a Super Bowl if you can't contain it, which Milton Williams is another one I'm concerned about on that end for the Patriots. But with the Seahawks, that matchup with their interior line and just really making Jared Wilson and Will Campbell kind of in a blender with the personnel you have, of course, Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and Jaron Reed, and those guys can just really, really put them in a bind. And you flip around Demarcus Lawrence and Uchenna Nwosu, Boye Mafe and Derek Hall. And I'm listing guys off. You can just keep switching them around. It's a merry-go-round, and they're going to start seeing Tweety birds on the left side of the line with some of the personnel you can offer.
Yeah, you make a really good point there. I don't know that they're going to need to stunt a lot, because the film that I've seen here in the playoffs, I'm confident in this front four just being able to handle their one-on-ones against those guys on the left side. I think Will Campbell, his length, I don't think that's as big of an issue when people talk about that in the NFL pre-draft process, but it can be when you're playing against a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence, who's got long arms and is as physical like a tank. That's why he's got the nickname that he's got. And I think you get Leonard Williams out there a few times, and I think you let Big Cat go to work with his power and speed at 300 pounds and let it, I just think a guy with short arms, a lighter tackle, I think that creates issues. I think Jaron Reed and Byron Murphy against Jared Wilson can have some fun with their power and their physicality. So I don't know that they need to mix a bunch of stunts in there, but you can mix them in, and that just gives another thing that those two rookies are thinking about that is going to make them play slower and allow you to get after Drake May. So I think that's incredibly important. I think the other thing we got to mention here, the run game for the Pats, they've got two guys that are stylistically very different running backs. Ramondre Stevenson is that 227-pound battering ram. And Travion Henderson is the speed demon that can take it the distance anytime. And yet they basically have identical numbers in 10-plus yard runs.
Henderson scares me.
Contact. Yeah. These two guys are both very effective. They just do it in different ways, and they get to the same endpoint to do it. So I look at those early downs, and this is going to sound repetitive when you talk about the 49ers game plan, but to me, I think New England and San Francisco, there are a lot of similarities in the way that they kind of matriculate the ball downfield, and they will take their shot plays. And I think the run game, there's a lot of similarities there. I think you have got to consistently get New England into 3rd and 6 or longer. If that means getting some incompletions on early downs, not letting these running backs get a bunch of yards after contact, swarming the ball, getting them down, limit that yardage. If they can get Drake May consistently into 3rd and 6 and longer and really take advantage of some of those matchups they have on the pass rush, I love their chances to be able to wreak havoc in this game against this offense, especially the way they've been playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, that seems like if they can get the Patriots out of their run game, out of their fits and everything, and kind of get them behind the chains, that is the recipe where this can turn into what some people think could be a blowout. I hesitate to go that far, but because I've seen a lot of predictions out there about how the Seahawks will blow out the Patriots. I'm not quite on board with that, especially if they can get that run game going. But if they make the Patriots one-dimensional and limit explosives or just completely shut down explosives. That is the recipe for this to get ugly.
When we come back, Super Bowl picks to click, and of course, game predictions. Who's winning Super Bowl 60? We're going to dive into that coming up next here. Blue Friday edition, Locked On Seahawks. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets change the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Our new year is now into February, and a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines. Dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference, and that's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule. 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. Everything arrives pre-portioned, so there's less prep, less mess, and no wasted food. Save time and money. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off your first box. Free shipping and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive the free dessert. Welcome back to the Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks Super Bowl edition. I'm your host, Corbin Smith, here live at Radio Row in San Francisco. He's Nick Lee. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. We are less than 48 hours away. Super Bowl 60 kicking off at Levis Stadium. Seahawks taking on the Patriots. Okay, Nick, let's dive into our weekly picks to click, and we're just making all kinds of history here on Locked On Seahawks. We just had our first keys to victory for a Super Bowl game. Now we've got picks to click, and we're going to kind of change the stakes here. Normally, you and I, it's not like who's going to be the MVP of the game or whatever, but it's the Super Bowl. We've got to talk about who we think is going to be the offensive MVP and defensive MVP, and those would be our picks to click. So, Nick, I am putting the ball in your court first. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. Who is the MVP for the Seahawks offensively in this game? Who is your pick to click? Super Bowl 60.
Well, I approached it as if this person, if there's a Super Bowl MVP on offense or defense, this would be my pick. And narrative-wise, if Sam Darnold plays relatively well and the Seahawks win, he's going to win MVP. And this is his crowning moment. His redemption arc that needs a punctuation mark. The ring needs to fall into the fiery pits of Mount Doom. The Sith need to be slain, and the balance to the Force. His finally driving the sword into the heart of the dragon. This is it. This is for him. This is his crowning moment. Finally, especially with a team. You've seen a lot of memes this week from Patriots fans about certain things he saw in some matchup. I refuse to reference beyond that. Those are going to go away, and he's going to be a buster of those things in this game. So I'm going to pick Sam Darnold as if the Super Bowl MVP becomes part on the offensive side of the ball. I do think it's going to be Sam Darnold just to complete that redemption arc. And I mean, you can't make Disney movies any better than that.
Yeah, it's easy to always pick the quarterback, but I got to go with the guy that he's throwing the ball to, that he has thrown the ball to as much as any receiver QB combo in the NFL this year. And look, I'm not going to mention the content producer's name because I don't want to give him any more ammunition for what he did last night. There's no way that was not done on purpose in terms of butchering Jackson Smith-Njigba's name, but look, I know JSN. I've been working. I've had the privilege to talk to him for the last 3 years as a Seahawks reporter. He's one of my favorites. Just a really good kid. Obviously a fantastic football player, but he is one of those guys. I think Sam Darnold's got some of this in him too, where, when you see him in the press conferences, really soft-spoken, doesn't seem like he's a guy that is, is going to get flustered by anything. And I don't even think fluster is the right word, but there is a fire that burns inside Jackson Smith-Njigba. You cannot tell me that he is not going to be coming out in this game with what happened last night, butchering his name. I mean, the PR even posted something about him. It was embarrassing. That should not happen in an award show. I think JSN is going to come out and say, you're going to know my name after this game. And in fact, I'm going to go bold here, Nick. I think he goes over 170 yards in this game. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba goes off in this contest. I think he has been hearing all week about Christian Gonzalez is a good player, really good player. But this is a team that plays a lot of man coverage. If they play a lot of man coverage in this game, Jackson Smith-Njigba is probably the best man coverage beating receiver in the NFL. And I just think that fire, they poured gasoline on it last night. I think JSN has a monster game, and I think he wins Super Bowl MVP. Let's go to the defensive side of the football now. This is going to be really fascinating because I think there's a lot of different guys. I felt like it was Darnold or JSN on offense. Defense, I'm like, God, I could see a number of different guys that this ends up going to. Who do you have as your defensive MVP pick to click in this game?
Well, shout out to Old Greasy and Sygen9566 in the live chat, who they've been tracking on what I might pick here. DeMarcus Lawrence. He's kind of been on the same journey as Cooper Kupp, where his old team thought he was maybe over the hill, not worth giving another contract to. The Cowboys did not see him worth being paid. After 11 years of blood, sweat, and tears with Dallas, he only won 3 playoff games in Dallas, never reached the NFC title game, and he will not let this game go a full 60 minutes without his presence being felt. I just feel it in my bones. I have a pretty big gut, and my gut feeling is that DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be a high impact player in this game. Give me 2 sacks and a pass swatted at the line for DeMarcus Lawrence, and if the Seahawks have a defensive Super Bowl MVP again this time, I do think that it lines up really nice matchup wise and motivation wise for it to be DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah, I thought about DeMarcus Lawrence, and then you mentioned you wanted to go there, and I do think he's going to make some impact plays on Sunday. I thought about Nick Emmanwori, and I'm excited that he gets to play in this game. It sounds like he's going to be good to go. But I'm going to go with somebody that probably nobody else is mentioning here, and it's because of what he does well. I'm going with the human bullet himself, Drake Thomas. I just think this is a game that what he does well, kind of like Nick Emmanwori, but what he does well is going to be accentuated against this offense. We have seen him hunt down quarterbacks this year. He had 3.5 sacks. He is one of those guys that, when you look at him, they list him 6 foot. I can tell you right now, he's not 6 foot. I've stood with him. I am just a hair under 6 foot tall, and I'm a little taller than him. But he is one of those guys that just flies around the field. He makes 2 or 3 plays every game. You're like, how in the heck did he get there? That kind of player is going to be huge defending Drake May. And I think he's the one that's going to be in that spy coverage more than anybody. I think he's going to make a couple plays on Drake May. I think he's going to force a strip sack on one of those plays. And I think he gets to 9 tackles with 2 tackles for loss. I think he is the ideal linebacker. Ernest Jones, obviously, is a really good player too, all pro. But I just think Drake Thomas, the way that he gets downhill and thumps people, fits really well with what they're going to need to do against New England's running back. So maybe that's outside the box, but I think this is that unheralded guy that always comes through in the Super Bowl. I think Drake Thomas is that guy on defense for the Seahawks. All right, let's get to the game predictions. This is what everybody's been waiting for. Drum roll here from the radio row, please. Will the Seahawks be hoisting the Lombardi Trophy for a second time in franchise history, or does Drake May pick up the mantle from Tom Brady and company and say, not so fast, my friend, Lee Corso style? Nick, what are you thinking?
So I'm going to go Patriots, forward it. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's going to be an absolute rock fight. I see it being very low scoring, especially early. 2 defensive coaches that are that are not wanting to, open themselves up, trying for the haymaker, but also leaving themselves vulnerable for a big punch themselves, and kind of dancing around the ring a little bit, feeling themselves out. Maybe it's like a 7-3 halftime thing. I just see this game developing that way, where it's a bit of a punt fest, a bit of a position battle, but I do think that the talent and the depth of the Seahawks will win out, and they'll make one more explosive play. They'll prevent an explosive play that the Patriots need, and I do think that eventually, over 4 quarters of play, the dominant depth and talent of the Seattle Seahawks will win out, and there's going to be a second parade down 4th and Denny, the second Lombardi Trophy down into Seattle. And I think I have the Seahawks winning 23-17, a bit of a lower scoring, defensive affair. I just think both teams are set up that way, but I do think that we're going to have a parade this week.
I am in agreement with you, sir. And people that listen to our show on Thursday, and honestly, we talked about the point spread on Wednesday with Rob on here, and it was at 45.5, and I believe it still is on FanDuel. I can't go above that. I got to go under it. I think that 43-44 combined points is about what I'm thinking here. But you know what? I'm going to go 27-20. I think Seattle, I changed my tune in this a little bit. I had them going under their spread at 4.5 points and not the Seahawks not getting the spread. I've changed my tune because I think Seattle is the more complete team. And I think that is going to eventually come through in the end. I think New England's going to scrap. I think they're a well-coached team. I think they're going to fight. But I think Seattle is still close, a one-score game. But I think Seattle wins this one. Let's go 27-20. I'm going to go above that 45-point threshold. I've changed my mind. I think there's going to be one extra touchdown sprinkled in there that puts them above that 45.5. So let's go 27-20. Seahawks winning on Sunday. We'll see what happens.
Just win by 1. I don't care. Just win by 1.
As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Nick at Nick Lee 51. And make sure to check out the Everydayer Club, ad-free Locked On Seahawks, private Discord club access, and much more. You can get your first month free with the code Super Bowl at lockedonseahawks.supercast.com. Coming up on Sunday, yes, there will be a post-Super Bowl show. Hopefully, we'll be talking to Seahawks victory. But regardless of what happens, there will be a post-game show. Locked On Seahawks. We'll also have a Seahawks squad coming immediately after the game with Anders Hurst, Robert Turbin, Rob Rang and company. So make sure to listen for both of those shows post-Super Bowl. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and try to relax a little bit before Sunday. Go Hawks.